Strange situation today. If you look at the critical reviews of Elden Ring, it honestly basically looks like one of the greatest games ever made, which is extremely exciting. When you look at the Steam reviews, you maybe think that our man Durante is needed again.
Yep, absolutely.
So yes, we're going to be talking a little bit about Elden Ring today and what's actually going on. So for a while, it was actually the best rated game ever on OpenCritic.
Yep, it was in the, they tweeted after 90 reviews are in, it was in the 100th percentile of games rated in OpenCritic, meaning it's better than the two games at the top were Super Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, it's their 67th game, which is quite something, really.
Wow.
And one of the best games ever made. I think it's a pretty fair statement.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just
great.
great.
Yeah, as far as critics are concerned, and there's a couple ifs there, but it's Breath of the Wild meets Dark Souls. It's one of the greatest things of all time.
Yeah, people seem thrilled, and that is genuinely fantastic and inspiring news.
Yep.
Now, of course, we're going to have to talk about the reason why it's currently very mixed in Steam, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is because, well, games are also art. Games are art. They're also software.
Yeah.
And the software has got to be stable and, work good. So as for what the critics are saying, basically, absolutely incredible. Jason Schreier got himself into a little tad of hot water, which was very funny. We'll say I agree with him in this one. He said that a quest log would hurt the game, and he recommends playing it with a notebook to keep note of the things that you see and NPCs that you talk to. Yeah. I think, look, there's all the, a lot of people saying, hey, we want a quest log. It's easier that way. I find it easier to track things that way. It'll click in my head better that way. To which I say, yeah, games are also art, and this is the way they've decided to make that art. A UI element is a part of the art because it's a part of the experience. This team has created an experience. If they don't want a quest log to be a part of that experience, and you don't like that, tough shit. It means that part of the product's not for you, and that is a sacrifice that they consciously made when developing the game.
Yep, there was someone who replied to there's someone who replied to Jason, and I can't remember their name or where they currently work. Might be Tripwire or something else, but they were ex Obsidian and ex Warcraft, and they said, it was a decision to not put a quest log in the game. That's a valid decision, because if you have a quest log, your game can very quickly become a list of chores. Anyone who's been playing any game that's released recently that's big, even Forbidden West as an example, you're like, here's a massive list of things you have to do, and you end up having the mental framing of, I'll tick these tasks off my list. I mean, they call them there's main quests, side quests, but then there's jobs and errands. And you're like, well, that's it. But Dark Souls, the entire design behind that, like the philosophy behind that is, no, this is a living, breathing world. We don't want you to think of these as quests.
Yeah.
And so you didn't.
There's these people who say, the sorts that get angry about entitled gamers and all that. Well, at the end of the day, to the people who are like, I needed a quest log to play, stop being an entitled gamer. If that's what's going to be, right? We all know. I obviously say that making a little bit of a jab at certain segments of the journos and stuff. But I think straight up, you're not entitled to whatever.
Yeah.
It's their art. They get to choose what's there. And I think that's very fucking fundamental and simple. Yep. So yeah, that's what I would say to that discussion. And I mean, it's also a lot of what I would say to the difficulty discussion. People saying, difficulty in Dark Souls is an accessibility issue. Maybe it is, but also their art as the game is done that way.
Yeah.
And if you're going to say suddenly there's an easy option in the game, and then they have to go around, tweak all the health values, tweak all of, everything in the game, well, it's no longer the game they wanted to make.
Yeah, they're not.
So
yeah.
I support the art of the fucking developers. People,
that's
quit the bullshit.
That's the only correct way to discuss it. I mean, obviously, if the developers want a wider audience and they want to have, I saw people say that accessibility shouldn't be the term used because that conflates with literal accessibility for people who are differently able or whatever else, and approachability is the term they should use. And in terms of because Miyazaki had an interview with, I can't remember who it was, but it was a couple of weeks ago. I think it might have been January before this game came out, and almost kind of like to get ahead of the whole, is this a game for super hardcore try hard gamers and no one else? And he was just like, yeah, the entire approachability approach we've taken is, it's a big world with a lot of the RPG elements that are traditional. You have a massive amount of ways you can approach this game, and thus it has he didn't say this, but effectively a diegetic difficulty scaling, where, you know, if you want to play this Sword and Shield, there's your easy mode. If you want to play this, you know, I don't know, I guess Magic's kind of easier as well, I guess, now in Elden Ring. But if you want to play as, you know, I don't know, something like a dual-wielding greatsword user or something, then you're kind of making it more difficult for yourself. So that's the approach, is it's in the game. It's not an UI option, because fuck that.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, yeah, what a surprise. I am radically on the side of the developers doing whatever the fuck they want, because at the end of the day, they're making a product that you don't have to buy.
Yeah, and now it was, for a time, the best game ever rated, so
yep.
I think their approach may have worked.
Yep, so I saw people trying to go in on Schreier for saying that a quest log would make it a worse experience. He's right.
Yep.
It would. And even if it would make it a better experience, well, it makes it not the experience the developers wanted to make, and ultimately it's their game.
Yeah.
Jeff Grubb, the greatest blessing of Elden Ring is that it really should nullify the easy mode debate.
Mm-hmm.
If it feels like a game that should maybe have cheats, but it just feels like the world is the world. You need to do other things, to make more accessible, and it does.
Yep.
Yeah. Turns out, it's like whenever you just throw, I suppose whenever you go to just tweaking health values, timers, that's all very easy tools.
Yeah.
The hard way to do difficulty, I suppose, is this.
Yeah.
To make it very inherent and just inside the game world.
Yep,
which is a very interesting thing that perhaps more developers should think about, especially in this era, this realm of extremely systems-oriented thinking in games.
Yeah, I mean, the Forbidden West is probably the best example, because it doesn't bombard you until you go into the settings. But if you can turn on, there's difficulty modes of story, easy, normal, hard, very hard. But then there's also custom, where you can just tweak basically every value you want to. And there's so many things you can do to make that game substantially different in terms of how it controls or how it plays for you specifically. And I think that's like a really good tool for like a really super hyper broad audience. But it does mean that I don't know what way the developers kind of want you to play. So I ended up playing on hard, because I assumed that's kind of what they were wanting, and it feels right generally. But it just leaves you that thing of all this stuff is outside the game. So I know I basically I can see the man behind the curtain tweaking all the values for me.
Yeah.
Instead of me feeling like it's this world that's actually difficult or easy, if I can just go to the options menu and go, what if maybe the dinosaurs don't do any damage to me? You're like, that's a bit...
It's an interesting thing. I remember playing Uncharted 4, and at the time, I was useless playing a shooter with a gamepad, because I was always a FPS and PC guy. I was useless at that. And I was just thinking like, oh wait, with the auto-aim on, I'm focusing on movement all the time. This is really cool, actually. Then I started thinking, wouldn't it be interesting if a game like this was actually designed with the auto-aim from the ground up, but then was radically moving itself towards being a super heavy movement game, so it still had the difficulty. And then that's when we get to the thing of, all that tweakability, but ultimately, what is the core design of the combat model? What are the sort of locked-in base assumptions of that combat model, and whenever you can tweak and change every single little thing, and it's designed to be like generic, that's just... I think it just means you're never going to be able to reach the heights of design specificity that they obviously have been able to do with Elden Ring. So it's a very interesting debate, and that's not to say that the Elden Ring way is the way to go for every single game. No. I think especially for those big Sony blockbusters, that probably the way they're doing it is probably the right way for them to do it.
Yeah.
Just obviously they're not making a game like Elden Ring. So a little bit of a note for the reviews, though. Usually based off about 40 hours with the game. The review copies are given out less than a week prior to the embargo, and they were only allowed to discuss 2 areas of the game. So that's obviously, impossible to do a full review, and also not enough time to do a full review. So take it with a grain of salt, but certainly if people have played the game exhaustively for 40 hours, and this is the opinion, then hopefully we can track that forward, and the game doesn't fall over after those 2 areas.
Yeah, that's why I included that tweet from Young, saying, 65 hours in. This was after his review went live. I think, it was yesterday he tweeted this. He's like, somehow I think, when I think I have a grasp on the massive scale, it somehow gets bigger. It's utterly broken me with wonder and disbelief. So that's one data point for it actually, continuing past the opening bit. They haven't just, scammed people. They're going, the first 40 hours of this game is great, and the rest is shit. They haven't done what I'm going to call a reverse Final Fantasy 13. God.
Now, it is a From Software piece of software in addition to being a game. Yes. And that does mean that it comes with a great many asterisks, unfortunately, which is currently why it does not have a Steam review that is reflective of its quality, as a piece of art.
As a video game.
So, it's scuffed in PC, is basically the word, and even in consoles it has issues running between 45 and 60 FPS in performance mode. Mm-hmm. So according to Vandal, which is a Spanish site in their testing, the best console performance is the PS5 in performance mode, which holds 55 to 60 FPS. Now, Digital Foundry, they recommend playing the PS4 version on PS5 because that will get you a reliable 60 FPS, although that is at a reconstructed 1800p and lower grass density.
Yep.
But I think for a game like this, I mean, it has to be solid 60.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. Now, the good news is you actually get both versions, regardless of what you buy.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah, I think some of that might just be because it's on Xbox as well. So Bamco, for simplicity's sake, went, you can just have it whatever you want. Yeah. Because smart delivery, obviously, mandated by Xbox. So here you go, have your PS5 and PS4 version, same kind.
And what's interesting to me is they could have charged $70, £70 for this, but no, the RRP is £55, 45 quid on Amazon.
Yep.
It's basically charged like a last gen title.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Well, I mean, it sort of kind of is in a way, so, yeah. But that's the thing where because they didn't have SKUs, so they couldn't charge the last gen version higher. But it is funny to me that it's 75% the price of Horizon Forbidden West. Like that that's actually a fairly big difference for the game being, the same, not the same genre, but the same. Hey, here's an expansive open world that's rated really well.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting.
Now, the unfortunate news on PC. Yes. So Digital Foundry say that as it currently stands, the PC version on 1.0.2 has got a number of issues that will affect all hardware configs on all graphics presets, which is not good. They say that it's FromSoft's first foray into low-level APIs on PC, and it uses DirectX 12. And as they've seen with other DX12 titles, there basically can be severe and distracting frame time stuttering issues. Now that is specifically bad for a game like this, where frame timings are pretty important.
Yeah, it's
your iframes, all that.
Yeah, it's the exact same problem with Bloodborne.
Yeah,
it's why Bloodborne, for being an incredible game, I can't bring myself to play it for too long because the performance is just miserable. It just does not feel good to play, despite how good the game is. And Elden Ring seems to have the same problem on PC because of maybe even the same thing where, whenever you're working on like a console, you're going to have a lot of low-level access possible, and that's where you're going to see a lot of performance improvements, especially when you think of Sony Japan working on Bloodborne with FromSoft. You imagine they have a lot of access to Sony's, like, basically the best shit they can do. But if they misuse that, you're going to have issues. It's the kind of thing of, if you're driving manual instead of automatic, you have more chances to fuck up.
Yeah.
And Alex for Digital Foundry clarified on Twitter that that's basically what happens with DirectX 12. That's why a lot of DX12 games have some stuttering and frame time issues. It's because DX12 is like, you can go under the hood and specifically control what the GPU does as much as possible. But for FromSoft, that seems to have been a curse more than a blessing, yeah.
A good example, like let's just say you're using C# or you're using Java, and then you go and you start using C++ for the first time. Yeah. Suddenly you've got to do your own memory management. Mm-hmm. So in the hands of a really strong programmer doing their own memory management, their C++ is going to be way better than what you're going to achieve with like a C# or a Java or whatever. Yeah. But a bad programmer, they're going to be able to do a lot more damage if they're in C++. And, they have that low-level access, but that just obviously leans on the strength of the engineering team. So in this case, DX12 is not exactly being a great thing for FromSoft because they've not really been able to make good use of it. In fact, the increased responsibility of more low-level access could even be hindering them.
Seems to be the case.
So there are stutters of up to 250 milliseconds in length.
Brutal. When
there are new effects, enemies, and areas appearing on screen. That's rough. Yeah. That's just really rough. Frame rates, from steady 60 into the 40s. And that's the thing. It's not just average frame rate that matters. It's every frame being delivered reliably.
Yep.
With good timing, and that just does not really seem to be here, unfortunately. Basically, if you're playing PC, don't wait. You have to wait. Or, what me and you are probably going to do, PS5.
Yeah,
well, PS4 and a PS5.
Yeah, that's the thing. I waited specifically because I could play this on PC or I could play this on PS5. I did plan PS5. I'm happy I planned that. I'm just going to go ahead and buy that tomorrow and play away.
Yeah.
But it's just a case of, man, PC ports need us so much more love. There are a lot of Japanese developers doing them really, really well. Like, I believe there's been basically no issues with any of Capcom's PC ports outside of some DRM stuff with the Denuvo that was ultimately solved. But it's just not. It's not okay.
Yeah.
This is such an important part of your like entire audience on your platform. I was like, nah, you're gonna have fucking terrible performance. Eat shit. You're like, all right, sweet.
So time for a controversial statement.
Yep.
I think Elden Ring's done better than Lost Ark in a way.
Oh, of course it has.
I'm going to unpack that.
Yeah, of
so
course.
Lost Ark had 1.3 million concurrent users, right? Now, that's concurrent users. Now, as everybody knows, whenever you open up a game on Steam, pretty high chance that your hours playing the game is not how many you've played, because of the time that you've maybe left the launcher open, left the game open, something like that. Lost Ark is a game that was very much saddled by queues. Same goes for New World. So what that will do is that will take all of the demand to play the game. It will then spread it out, but it will spread it out while still keeping the concurrent users number up, because you count as a concurrent user when you're in queue. This is not a game like that.
Nope.
If you want to play Elden Ring, you click the play button, you're playing Elden Ring. So, you know, of that 1.3 million, how many were sitting in the queue? Elden Ring, though, the 750k, they're playing Elden Ring.
Yep.
764k.
Yeah.
So, you know, I can't say one beat the other or anything, but worth keeping that in mind, that this CCU number is like all the more impressive considering the type of game.
And there's also one other thing, which is Lost Ark was free to play. So so there was no reason for you not to sit in queue and try to give it a go, outside of having to download it and spending your time. But then Elden Ring's like, yeah, here's a full price video game, day one, 764,000. That's a lot of players.
Yeah. Now, in terms of issues, then, like, here's a negative review. Somebody just saying, they meet the requirements, but there's a bug with easy anti-cheat that's keeping them from even seeing the Bandai Namco link or logo. Yeah. So that's not good. And just similar things, performance, EAC, issues like that, FPS drops, inconsistent performance. This is bad. Now, they have actually just minutes before we started recording this video, FromSoft have put out a statement basically saying that, so there's issues with the mouse being too sensitive in PC. They're working on a patch. Regarding the problem of easy anti-cheat failing to launch when a Steam account name is set to 2-byte characters, patch in the near future. That's insane. The phenomenon of frame rate and other performance issues, they've basically just said that they're constantly working to improve the game so you can play comfortably on various environments and platforms, and they recommend updating your GPU drivers.
Of course they do.
Yep, that's it. Yep, please understand. So about the phenomenon of game data not being saved correctly in the PS5 version, if the console unexpectedly turns off while playing the game or in rest mode, then there could obviously be an issue, which, I mean, yeah, sure. So basically they're also aware of just like, I suppose, autosave issue, and they're just saying to please save the game manually before exiting the game regularly. And the game data will be saved if you quit the game by opening the systems menu using the option key and selecting quit game.
Yep, it's the same thing where they, like, FromSoft as developers have been so focused on making the actual game experience better, they haven't thought about the software experience. Because this is the same way that Dark Souls operates, where it saves when you quit. It has a bit of auto-saving, but they haven't adapted that for how consoles work over the past 2 full generations of having suspends and sleeps and stuff. It's like, no, we haven't figured that, haven't thought about that, haven't introduced that into any of our systems, just we'll do it the way it worked in Demon Souls and PS3. Grant.
Yeah. Now, there's one man to thank for a lot, and that is Durante.
Yeah.
Came in and basically saved Dark Souls Prepare to Die Edition. In the process, Durante probably made FromSoft millions of dollars. And, there is a world where it would be pretty cool if he just got a check in the post because he deserves it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so Demon Souls, it was more of a cult game. I think I remember TB talking about it.
Yeah.
Was it just after Dark Souls came out? But anyway, I remember that. It's what truly kicked them off. Now, in the PS3 and 360, it was playable, but it was utterly grim.
Yeah.
Utterly grim. I remember seeing, friends of mine in uni playing it on a 360 in Blighttown. 20 to 30 FPS is actually generous for some of those Blighttown experiences.
Oh, yeah, Blighttown,
but what happened in PC? Well, DS Fix unlocked the frame rate, many optimizations. I mean, it just loads of systems run it at 60 FPS. There were some physics bugs, but it was never enough that prevented me from playing for the little bit of the game.
Yeah, I think
hopped into.
As far as I remember, 60 FPS was. I think the specific guidance was everything should be roughly okay as long as you don't slide down ladders in specific places, because then you'll break. But like the entire thing about DS fix is that's what made it happen on PC.
Yeah.
That Dark Souls, and I'm comfortable saying this from what my general experience at the time was, Dark Souls would not be anywhere near as large as it is today. As an experience, lots of people played and enjoyed without DS fix, without Durante's work, because the PC version was the de facto way to play it. That's where so much of the community actually started. That's where Vati and all of the other YouTubers kind of got their start from. The PC version, the PC mods, being able to data mine to look for lore stuff. All of that stuff was possible because of Durante, which
We're
is to
snobs.
say, yeah,
me and you are snobs. Now I can definitely say, I did not enjoy playing Dark Souls. I didn't like it first time I played it.
Me neither.
What did I play it on? 360.
I played it on PS3 first.
Yeah, it didn't control good.
Yep.
It didn't control good. The combat didn't feel good to me because of the frame rate and the performance issues.
Yep.
And then I remember playing it on PC for the first time. High frame rate, silky smooth, gorgeous. I mean, the art direction, all of the things that all the work they did finally was able to shine.
Yeah.
Because the software was fixed. And you're right. Where would Dark Souls be without Durante? I mean, I know it would set a weird precedent if they just gave Durante a bunch of money, but I even think about bug bounties in the software industry and stuff like that. And just, it's like, at the end of the day, how many millions of dollars has Durante made this company? That's it, right?
And to be fair to him, he does have a fairly, what I assume is a fairly comfy gig running a PC porting house.
Yep.
And has actually helped Nipponichi with a couple of their games. I think it was the Trails of Cold Steel 2 PC version that he added a whole bunch of custom features to, including like a full suspend mode. And I was like, holy shit, why do you not do all this for everyone? And they sort of started, but hasn't seemed to have, maybe there's a little bit of him to thank for PC ports from Japan actually being generally better across the era and helping kick that entire industry off.
Yeah. No, he's one of the 2010s fucking heroes of gaming, basically.
Yep. And then FromSoft pays zero respect to him whatsoever by continuing to release broken piece of shit on PC.
Yeah.
Incredible games but...
A broken piece of shit that shows a lack of giving a fuck about the customer.
Yeah.
Like, ultimately, what do those Steam reviews reflect? They reflect people giving their money and being treated like shit.
Yeah, it reflects, based on the numbers right now, 40% of players unsatisfied with their game.
Yeah, and that is, that is the management of the company, treating their own artists. When I say artists, I mean everyone involved in the game, treating them with... just not treating them well because they're not being supported. Which
is incredibly ironic when you think who the company president is.
Yeah.
Hidetaka Miyazaki, the director of all of their games since Demon's Souls.
Yeah.
And, the man who made Dark Souls happen, who made Demon's Souls happen, who made, Sekiro happen in a way.
Who saw somebody fix his game for free and didn't show the fucking respect.
Ultimately, that's the truth of it, like.
Yeah, so, that's it. I think we're willing to make... We're a little willing, maybe too eager to make enemies in this show. But ultimately, I see people turn over their hard-earned money being asked to purchase a product and, they're not getting a good time. They're getting busted stuff and that just sucks. I even think about the people who, designed the combat in Dark Souls 1 and it runs at 20 FPS. It's not even fun.
Yeah.
And some motherfucker on the internet comes, fixes it. Suddenly we've got one of the best games ever made at the time. It's like, damn. I think I know who deserves a lot of credit. Now, an issue then is Elden Ring's inclusion of easy anti-cheat does make that more difficult.
Yep.
Now, another thing, I suppose, we don't really have major updates on the story that we did a few weeks ago.
The remote code or the remote code expert. Yep.
Yep. So I assume that isn't fixed.
Or
what's up?
The general opinion is, I haven't seen much follow-up on this, but the genuine opinion is that easy anti-cheat seems to have been a relatively last-minute solution to this problem, because that will immediately hold back that tide of people being able to very easily fiddle with stuff online. So easy anti-cheats went, here's the boxed solution to kill off a lot of modding, because obviously, modding is good, modding can be bad in these cases. So they've included easy anti-cheat. That could possibly have something to do with some of the performance issues, just because of how things generally interact with an anti-cheat software. I wouldn't, commit to saying that. It's a vague possibility, but it just comes across as they haven't, Bandai Namco and FromSoft have not done the work to improve their netcode, to improve their actual software in the ways that they should have, considering the amount of money and acclaim they have, which is ultimately the problem, where it, as far as I'm aware, the vulnerability still technically exists. So that's another reason why, if you can, probably play it on console, though don't play it on a last-gen console, because then you're playing it at 20 FPS.
Oh dear. Yeah.
Yep. They never learn. Which is ironic, considering,
And we really don't want to be saying this, to be clear.
Yeah, no, From Software is still possibly my favorite developer, despite all this.
Yeah. Now, for them, their history's wild.
Yep.
2.4 games a year.
Since
for
1984.
27 years. Most of their games have been mixed.
Yep.
Of course, there are the standout ones. Armored Core. Remember playing that as a kid in PS2.
Mm-hmm.
Tenchu.
Yep.
I think Josh Strife Hayes took a look at that game recently on his Josh Strife Plays channel. That was a very interesting video.
Tenchu is a very, very interesting game, and you can see how Sekiro came out of an idea to revive Tenchu, because it was all that item-focused sneaking around stuff. It's actually fantastic. Ran like shit. Same with the Armored Core games. Armored Core for Answer was I think it was the second game Miyazaki directed. He joined for Armored Core Last Raven, then directed Armored Core 4 and For Answer. And For Answer is not a great game, but it is what I think it is. You play a game, you're like, this isn't very good, but I can feel pure soul in this game. I can feel pure heart. There's something about every time White Glint appears, like one of the cover mech, everything is just so cool. Like the spirit of Mother Will, it's just so good. But it's not a great game.
Demon Souls.
Yep, of course.
Which leads into Dark Souls, leads into everything else we really know them for. As for Hidetaka Miyazaki, well, he played Ico in 2001. He was so inspired that he left his account management position at Oracle. Yeah, that Oracle?
Oracle Corporation, yep.
Yep, big Oracle, to work in games. Now, he was 29 at this stage.
Yep.
No one would hire him. From did hire him. And then, of course, he's on to Armored Core Last Raven.
As a game planner, I believe.
Yeah. Then he takes over Demon Souls because it was basically a failing project even in its earlier sort of iterations. And then it does actually continue to be a failed project, but it's one that turns into a cult classic. Because Demon Souls did not sell incredibly well, though I'm fairly sure what happened around the launch of the PS5 has very much changed that fact.
Yeah. One of the interesting things is it was so bad that they couldn't get someone to publish it effectively. And then whenever I'm not super sure in the details, but whenever he picked it up and did whatever he wanted to do with it, that kind of gave it a little bit of life, and then Sony jumped on and published it for them.
I mean, it is incredible because, from what I understand too, like his parents wouldn't let him have games.
Oh yeah, no, Miyazaki's history as a video gamer, this basically comes across really well in how all his games are obtuse and insane, because he grew up in abject poverty, was really, really poor. His hobby was going to the library to read books and manga. Obviously, so much of his inspiration comes from Kentaro Miura's Berserk, because that was really strong in the 80s and just constantly going. But he couldn't own books or manga because they're too poor, so he just went to the library to read them. And his parents banned him from playing video games until he was an adult. So he never actually played games basically at all when he was young, but he did play a lot of tabletops. A whole bunch of D&D, a whole bunch of fantasy, stuff like that.
Oh, you can so see that in the Worlds.
Yep. That's basically his unique aspect of not really giving too much of a shit about video games until he was nearly 30 is kind of where his ability seems to have come from, but also explains why all of their games are extremely good worlds and extremely good experiences, but not that great as far as games are concerned.
This is going to be a really weird analogy, but there's people say, there's a car that just has character.
Yeah.
And, maybe it doesn't have the fancy turbocharger and, all of the things, but I like how it feels. It's quirky and it has a character. Yeah. And I think that's the thing with just about everything he's ended up working on.
Yep.
They have character. And you just can't really put a price on that. I mean, you can because you have to buy it, but just the idea of something having that character, that soul, all those intangibles.
Yep.
That's what they do incredibly.
Yep.
So yeah, he then though, this is the mad thing. So he directs Dark Souls. Then he's promoted to company president.
Yeah.
Bam.
Literally just, you're you're the first one who's made a game that's sold. Do you want to run the place? Like, all right, I'll have that.
Yeah.
And it's went extremely well, but also it sort of hasn't.
Well, and that's the other thing we wanted to point out. Like, typically, things are a bit more hierarchical. A bit more sort of climb the ladder and stuff.
Yeah.
Just with the sort of the big corporate life in Japan or whatever, it's something that. We all know what it gets almost memed on, right? Like, we get what people say. Now, perhaps there are going to be differences there between, that and reality. I'm sure there's lots of modernizations that haven't really, the Western cultural consciousness or perception maybe hasn't actually, got up to date with.
Yeah.
But it still is a pretty wild thing that just suddenly he's company president now. And then next decade, of course, Bloodborne, Sekiro, Elden Ring.
Yep, some of the best games ever made.
Yeah.
Obviously, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Elden Ring, all the same genre. Sekiro is a bit different, but it proved that they did have that difference. And also it was a better technical product in every capacity.
It was.
So I don't know how they've kind of went back on that with Elden Ring.
Wow.
I guess the size and the...
There you go, game big.
Yeah. But that's like... Because this is the thing that I think is, like, almost hard to believe, considering FromSoft are just these fucking nobodies sitting out in the wilderness as far as games developers are concerned. Because obviously, Rockstar can do whatever they want, and it'll be a Game of the Year contender. Nintendo can do that, but no, Sony, PlayStation Studios sort of can, but not really. Especially like Forbidden West didn't break 90, which must be really disheartening for them, wanting to be like constantly the best in the industry, only to have Elden Ring come out the next week and clobber it, critically speaking. It's just that thing where they clearly have something that other developers really lack. And now they have, Sekiro won Game Awards Game of the Year. And unless Breath of the Wild 2 comes out and is as innovative as the first one was, which seems impossible, Elden Ring's going to win Game of the Year this year at the Game Awards, especially because Jeff Keighley loves himself some Elden Ring. And that's just going to be it. They're just going to be like, no big deal. We've just cracked out 2 Game of the Years in a row. Guess we'll be go for the three-peat. And it's insane. Just a shame it's mixed reviews. Probably going to end up negative before too long on Steam.
Big shame. Yeah.
Yep.
So the actual game itself deserves better. The game deserves better, and the gamers also deserve better.
Yep.
That's the situation. So hopefully this gets fixed. And, it would be great to say that a Durante-like person could come in and fix it, but I feel like maybe EAC might make that a bit harder. That's
already kind of sort of happened. There was a fix for some of the game's issues that I can't remember specifically which ones, but there are a couple issues that have mods out now, but you have to do a very strange workaround and play offline only to get around easy anti-cheat for it to function. It's not been tested all that well, but it should work. But that's the thing. Just if you want the great online experience of the shared world of the Soulsborne games, which I've been thinking about all week, and I'm like, it's incredible that they've managed to get so much in character in the game. Like, even thinking about the prospect of the white soapstones in Dark Souls being this diegetic in-universe way to, show that you're available to help other people. It's such a fantastic experience in a world that's so lonely and so full of despair. And if you want to play the game product better, turn that off.
Yeah. So, good stuff, and time is going to be tricky. My PS5 is in a different part of the country right now.
Yep.
I will not play this game this weekend.
Nope.
You will.
I absolutely will.
You are not allowed to see me play the game because I do not want to make you depressed with my level of skill.
It's okay.
So, good luck, everybody. Have fun. Hold off on PC until we can confirm that you're going to be able to actually get a fantastic running product that is, deserving of the actual game. And we shall see you next time.
Actually, before we go, one thing. It might be worth buying it if you really want to play it and make sure the refund options are still available within the 2 hours. Because for 40% negative, there's 60% positive. There's a lot of people who might be going, I don't mind the problems, but there are quite a lot of positive reviews that are good that go, no problems here.
Oh, okay.
That's just the PC platform. Sometimes you get lucky. Yep, sometimes you don't.
Give it a go. Hopefully it runs in your machine. I guess, watch out the 2-hour timer.
Yep.
So that's the situation. Look, another fantastic game is out in the world, so that's enough for me to be happy.
Yep, indeed.
Right, we shall. See you next time.